Birth in America is at a kind of interesting place where we find ourselves with a very high C-section rate. Some states are better than others. But for example, in New York City, a lot of the hospitals have a 35 and up percentage of C-sections. And just to give you context, the World Health Organization recommends no hospital, city, state, or country have a C-section rate above 12 to 15%. Like 12 to 15% is statistically the amount of women that actually need cesarean section. So that's a lot of cesareans that are happening that could have been avoided. The infant and maternal death rates are very high, especially among women of color, immigrants, but even across all races in America. We're a first-class country and we have rates that are in alignment with some poorer nations. And so that's what really got me like, what's going on here? We spend the most amount of money on our healthcare as a nation, but we have some of the worst stats for infant and maternal health.
In America, the mainstream birth system often undermines women in leading their own birthing experiences. The option for a natural vaginal delivery is frequently overshadowed by a highly medicalized approach that distrusts a woman's innate understanding of her body. This leaves many feeling disempowered and disconnected from what should be a deeply personal journey. Why has it come to this? We've reached a point where the benefits of medical advancements begin to lose their value when overused or imposed in women who neither need nor want them. While interventions like cesarean births can be life-saving and improve outcomes when necessary, their effectiveness diminishes when they become routine rather than exceptional. This disconnect not only limits women's natural birthing options, but also puts both mothers and their babies at greater risk for complications. How does our approach differ from practices in other cultures? What steps can we take to better prioritize women's choices? Arianna's doula Bailey sheds some light on the historical and systemic factors shaping our current birth culture.
I think the reason for this is, well, there's a few reasons, but first would be that our medical system is built on money and business. And so whether we're talking about cancer or whether we're talking about, any kind of health related thing, that's always going to be the guiding force that it's big business. Anesthesiologists, for example, are one of the highest paying doctors in America. They make anywhere from $300,000 and up. And about 80% of anesthesiology is C-sections, is epidurals. In any hospital, there could be on a 24/7, there's at least 2 to 3 anesthesiologists on every labor and delivery floor, right? So to actually make those salaries worth it, women have to be getting epidurals. And so it's, again, feeding into that system. I mean, I don't demonize epidurals. I don't demonize medical interventions at all. They can be a very helpful tool. But I will say there's definitely push. The system is set up to run a very long bill for your birth, which can, again, take a healthy mom having a healthy pregnancy, normal pregnancy, and then kind of somehow end up with an emergency C-section. A lot of my clients will say that they don't have intimate relationships with their OBGYN, that their doctor is in a team of 15 doctors, 12 doctors. So the likelihood that the person they know and trust, the person they chose, will even be there is very low. And the second reason that I was going to say was why we're where we are with birth is fear. Fear plays a really big role in birth outcomes. And a lot of us across the nation, across the world, but particularly in Western nations, have fear around the process of birth, which again also feeds into the system, because if you have a lot of fear, you're going to go to the doctor and be like, whatever the doctor says, I'm just going to follow it. They want to induce me at 38 weeks. I don't really know why, but they said I should. I'll just do it. And we don't question, right? So there's also power, right? So many of us don't feel comfortable advocating for ourselves, asking questions from doctors because we feel like they're going to make us feel stupid or silly, or the actual visit is so short that there's no time. It's kind of like, oh, your baby's fine. Yep, you're good. Okay, any questions? No? Okay, goodbye. That's how a lot of my clients will describe their prenatal visits. Again, I don't demonize doctors or midwives. So everyone's trying to do the best job that they have been trained to do. But there's so much more to birth than the physiological experience of, I'm 22 weeks. The growth scan says that. My blood test says this. There's so much more. And that's really the sad part, is that's not what's getting addressed. The mom's mental and emotional well-being and how that's impacting her pregnancy and how that might impact her birth is being totally missed here.
Arianna's first labor was grueling, a days-long ordeal that ended in an emergency C-section, leaving her feeling defeated and powerless. Bailey says these tough experiences are all too common. When we come back, we'll dive into how Bailey champions a more joyful approach to birth. You're listening to One Way or a Mother. We'll be right back. After such a difficult first labor, Arianna is determined to have a more empowering experience this time. According to doula Bailey, the key to a pleasurable birth starts with finding autonomy.
I've heard all the negative birth stories. I myself had a traumatic birth and I want to stop that cycle. What can I do? I'm not going to just go to an OB or hospital that's down the street because it's convenient, or a doctor just because it takes my insurance, right? I'm going to take that time to find that right fit location, that right doctor who speaks my language, who gets me, who makes me feel safe. And that way, there's still no guarantees, but now it's like we're moving from an empowered place of I'm owning my birth. The doctor's not delivering me. I'm birthing this child. Action, me doing it. And therefore, I'm the customer. And therefore, I get to decide what happens to my body. I may not have a fancy medical degree. I may know very little about birth, but I know my body. I know this baby for 9-10 months, and I trust my instincts. And so that's, again, the system doesn't foster that kind of independence and that kind of autonomy over self and body. We just, again, go to the doctor, do what they say, take the drugs, and hope for the best. But this is a different approach. This is saying, yes, I'm hiring an OB, but we're equal. I'm coming to you for your expertise and your services, but I'm informed. I know my body, I know my baby, and I want to have my voice heard.
Embracing autonomy means Arianna can shape her own labor experience. Last time, she hoped for a positive birth but faced challenges. Now, with renewed agency, she's aiming for something completely different, an orgasmic birth.
My doula is teaching me the orgasmic birth classes virtually, and it is what I expected it to be, which is it's more focused on euphoric birth. I still have 2 more classes, so I'm not sure where it's going. But the main thing about it, what I'm getting from it, is that it's like euphoric birth. So it's how to find the joy in it and what makes you feel good, and just getting in touch with all of the things that you like, and just as a person, and what makes you feel good as a person, and what makes you feel feminine, what makes you feel sexy, and just sort of keeping that in mind and practicing it before you give birth, and also bringing it into your birth. So trying to bring beauty into my birth, not necessarily maybe through having nice flowers around, or even just putting on a nice piece of clothing if just for a little while, or having my hair feel like I like looks nice or something, for me to access if I'm in the hospital, right? When I go to the hospital, make sure I feel good about physically what's going on. The orgasmic birth, what I'm getting from it, is like leaning into that, any aspect of yourself, like being able to express yourself without reservation.
Orgasmic birth is the process of intentionally bringing in pleasure into your birth. So we live in a pain-averse culture and society. What can we do to manage or erase or numb the pain? That's what, as soon as you get to the labor and delivery triage, they ask you, how bad is the pain? And do you want the anesthesiologist now or later? They just assume, like in New York, some hospitals have a 98% epidural rate, right? So their focus is pain management. But orgasmic birth is this idea of when you numb the pain, you numb everything. You're not just turning off the pain, you're turning off the ecstasy and the endorphin release and the oxytocin release that moms and babies are designed to feel and biologically need to feel in labor. 1, to have a safe birth, 2, to have a smoother and faster birth, and 3, to properly bond. Okay, so you might have heard stories of moms who took a while to really like their baby, didn't have that love at first sight experience, and that's okay. And there's no judgment around that. But a lot of times when you hear and unpack their birth story, it was highly medicalized.
Our producer Rose discusses this idea further in our conversation with Arianna and her mom, Alex.
A lot of the things that you said about feeling good and pleasure, and that, it's the opposite of the epidural and numbing yourself sensation. It's about accepting sensation, which is sometimes the bad, but also with that comes the good.
Yes,
but she did talk about having your partner there, even like making out or some like clitoral stimulation, things like that during contractions.
Yeah. I mean, I'm open to it all. I'm sure my husband is too. It would be fun. I know she's really big about like nipple stimulation, and that also helps with contractions, can make them stronger, and like help the oxytocin flow and the adrenaline balance kind of switch. So
I will say one thing. When I pushed that last push, the fact that I was not medicated or anything, it was orgasmic. I felt after that I was on such a high. I literally could have danced on the rooftops of all of Los Angeles.
Wow.
I've never felt more empowered, more energized. It was pretty interesting. No one gave it a name. There wasn't something, wasn't in my consciousness at the time. And I remember the nurses afterwards all coming up saying, oh, because I was eating and drinking. While her dad gave him instructions of don't let him do this, don't let him do this, as they were cleaning her up. And she was on me for a good 30 minutes before they went to clean her up. And I said, why can't I eat or drink? Because medication. I said, I have not had any medication. I said, I'm ready to roll. So that's interesting that you talk about this now, because it hadn't occurred to me because it was a really kind of orgasmic moment.
Yeah, it wasn't named.
It wasn't named.
How long did that euphoria last for you?
Gosh, I'd say at least an hour. I was really happy. I was really happy.
that's nice.
When she came out, one thing I remember is her eyes were wide open. And it was like I looked right into her eyes when she came out. And it was this moment where it wasn't like, oh, I'm looking into a baby. It was like, oh, I'm looking at you. There wasn't a distinction of you're my child. It was like looking at you, I know you.
Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll listen to one of Arianna's last orgasmic birth lessons with her doula, Bailey, and we'll hear just what an orgasmic birth sounds like. Welcome back to One Way or a Mother. What's the secret to unlocking a pleasurable and even orgasmic birth experience? We're about to find out in Arianna's orgasmic birth lesson with doula Bailey.
We're going to start with a video.
Could I look like that when I'm giving birth?
You do.
I know, but with like jewels.
Do you want to get
That's
witchy
nice.
with it? Yeah, you got to have your protection.
That's nice.
So there's a few stones. If we have time, I'm going to make an order or something.
There's a stone store right down the street.
Yeah.
What's it called? Is participating in an event of miraculous significance. She's bringing into existence a new life that did not exist.
Is she in labor? She looks like she's in labor.
The quality of this life will be defined by the quality of birth. The genius of her body is designed to give birth with ease and grace. In our soft, warm hands, we're holding the keys to our future. Natural birth is a powerful initiation.
As soon as fear comes up, you cancel out your feel-good hormones. And what a lot of people don't realize is that those hormones are responsible for that orgasmic birth, for that really high feeling of bliss, that feeling of joy that can come with childbirth. And when we start canceling out those hormones with fear, with cortisol, with stress hormones, the two can't coincide with one another. Ina May Gaskin, who is a midwife, who's doing a lot of research and study around this, found that there's actually like a sphincter muscle at the cervix, and that women can go reverse in labor. So as soon as they feel pain or fear, their cervix tightens up. So they may go from being dilated 9 centimeters to suddenly being dilated 4 centimeters because they've had fear. So imagine urinating.
Makes sense.
And somebody walks in the room. You can't urinate anymore because those sphincter muscles are tightening. Your body's producing hormones that stop that process from happening. But when you're in a really relaxed state, then you get these oxytocin and some of these other chemicals which make you just feel so blissful and orgasmic. The same sensuality that the baby was created from is the sensuality that you want to have during your birthing process. So not being afraid to masturbate or to have your partner stimulating your nipples. I've heard a lot of really funny stories about people trying to do this in the hospital. So, talking with your doctors and nurses and warning them beforehand is a really good thing to do. But I've even heard doctors say to bring your vibrator into your labor room, which I was like, wow, how great is that? And bringing those pleasure sensations in and helping yourself to relax through the fear and really surrendering to the process can allow you to have an orgasm during childbirth, and is also really good for you and the baby. Masturbation, I've heard stories of women masturbating during labor when the baby is crowning so that they don't tear, because what that does is bring more blood flow into the area and helps to relax all those tissues. And there's 100% in the research that I've read, 100% rate of not tearing if a woman is touching her clitoris during that moment.
What?
So I'm planning on experimenting with all of this.
Yes.
I will have to let everyone know how that goes. You never know what's going to happen.
Lady, tell me.
One of the most important things is surrendering into whatever may happen and allowing yourself to be in a sensual space, light candles, have nice music, and allowing your partners or whoever is there to support you in your birth to stimulate nipples and clitoris and be in that place of just sweet, soft, sensual surrender.
In general, we all want to be in like a nice feeling space, a nice open, surrendered, bodied space, especially for an orgasmic birth.
Yeah.
And yeah, you know what it is, what you're expecting. Like you've experienced it. There's a huge energy surge and tightening, and then an expansion. Mm-hmm. And in the expansion, that's where you're living in that rest, and you're not letting yourself get distracted away from your rest time. Flow and bliss, those breaks are what you can. So even if you're having intensity, you're having a hard time holding on to that blissful state for those 60 seconds, that's okay. As soon as it goes, bliss state, ragdoll. Just inhale, exhale, drop it down. Inhale, drop it down. Can count you down. 5, 4, 3, relax deeper. 2, 1, deeply relaxed. Nice, right?
Yeah.
Just do that every contraction out here.
Yeah.
Out in this yard.
Out in this whole yard.
Yeah.
But that's because only that practice will help in labor. The sensation is value. We want it. We're like, bring it on.
Yeah.
I'm ready to see this cuteness, no matter what I need to do.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's a gift. It's all gifts. Okay. So watch an orgasmic birth.
Are you holding me?
Bring me back. I'm like, oh my god, I remember, like, whoa.
I know.
He's gonna make so serious. Oh wow!
I know. Take that in.
It's the dream.
The concept of an orgasmic or euphoric birth may not be attainable for everyone, but the idea of finding pleasure during birth is undeniably compelling. Above all, Arianna is determined to feel empowered. To support this goal, she's been working on strengthening her mental and emotional frameworks. Additionally, we've arranged a private belly dancing session for Arianna. It's designed to help her embody the principles of autonomy and control that are central to her approach for her second birth. Let's drop in on her belly dancing lesson.
I've been to Morocco and seen we were in Marrakesh and how all these belly dancers are like, we tried to do it, we're like, we can't do that. It's like not something, it does look really organic. It's also why I was super drawn to it, is because it does look so feminine and organic to the feminine form.
Absolutely.
And I feel like there's a key there.
Yes. It's a folkloric dance, so it's now that it's been codified and put more like on a concert stage, but its roots are in folkloric, which means that it's just been passed down from generation to generation. It's not back in the day you would go to a school and study the way that like ballet or jazz is. It's something that's very connected to, I think, like our human essence, because it is so rooted in family. Really.
Oh, I love that. Oh, amazing.
So I want to break down a little bit about the posture. So our knees are always going to be soft. We're not going to lock them. We're not going to bend them. So just kind of relax into the floor and let those knees be soft.
Belly dancing, when the teacher was doing it, looked so awesome and so sexy and so feminine and just pretty effortless on her part. And you know, me with my giant belly, it looked quite different in the mirror and was a bit more difficult to navigate with like a large watermelon there. Also, I felt like I hadn't used those muscles during my pregnancy at all, which made me kind of sad. Like, oh, if I had started this earlier in my pregnancy when I wasn't so large, I would have much more control and tone in these other places. Like I wasn't even able to feel those muscles before this class. So it was giving me almost a muscular anatomy session. It felt a lot better with my eyes closed than looking in the mirror at myself doing it. Because when I wasn't looking at the mirror at myself doing it, I felt a lot more in touch with my body and a lot more sensual and a lot sexier. And then when I looked in the mirror doing it, I thought that wasn't really reflected, but it did give me this new sense of power. Like, oh, I can feel good in my body in this way, and I can move like this still. I'm not in practice because I'm huge and this is my first time and I'm almost done with this pregnancy, but it was really good to be in touch with that part of myself at that stage in my pregnancy, because I really did not feel sexy.
In labor, you want to move so much. You want to be able to access the muscles and feel which muscles are moving and useful, and it's really great.
Yeah, and like I said, or like you noticed, how it's strengthening the muscles across your sacrum, your pelvic floor, your upper abdominals, like all of those muscles that you need. So great. Thank you so much. Oh, it's my pleasure.
Arianna's creating space in her mind and body to make room for a calm, euphoric birth. She's gathered a toolkit filled with hypnobirthing techniques, dance movements to ease labor, and mindful visions of an orgasmic birth to bring joy into the experience. With her birth team supporting her every step of the way, she's reclaiming her autonomy.
Birth is a divine thing. We can't control it all, but we can definitely stack the chips on our favor, on our side, to increase the likelihood of a joyful birth, of an orgasmic birth, of a relaxed birth.
Next time on One Way or a Mother.
It was so weird when we first started, when you had your hand on my head and we were doing Reiki. I was like, oh, and I felt like pulled toward the heavens. And I was like, I have to go to the heavens to find this baby. This baby needs to be pulled from the heavens. Like my first baby needed to be pulled from the depths of hell.
Yeah.
And this one needs to be pulled from the heavens. Not saying anything about their personalities, just like strange, just strange. Like, I have to go there to get you.
Creator, producer, writer, and a host of One Way or a Mother is Dr. Elliot Berlin, D.C. Rose Hart-Landsberg and Natalie Pulvino are the writers and producers. Paul Greenberg is the consulting producer. Glenn Nishida was the sound engineer at Pacifica Studios. Nikola Teravovich was the audio engineer. Story editing and sound mixing by Mallory Edson. Theme music composed by Guillermo Silva. Juliette Lamar was a contributing editor. Special thanks to Arianna, Zach, and their family, and the providers for sharing their birth story. One Way or a Mother is an original production by Berlin LLC and the Informed Pregnancy Project. All rights reserved. Thanks for tuning in.